I want to bring in now Shannon Watts, founder of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. So, Shannon, I'm just curious your reaction in general to this sort of spate of gun violence we've seen across the country. It's not especially out of the ordinary, unfortunately, but it is something that it feels like more people are paying attention to now. How do you see that influencing the debate that's happening here in Washington?
Well, it's so important that people pay attention. Often what gets attention are these mass shootings in this country. We know that's about 1% of the gun violence in this country. Over 110 people are shot and killed every day. Hundreds more are wounded. I'm so glad people are paying attention. It is time to put pressure on our senators to finally act at a federal level. You know, we have sent 700,000 calls into the Senate. We are shutting down the switchboards today. We are having meetings on the Hill. And we're having a rally again tomorrow in front of the Capitol because it's so important that we finally have action, that we have compromise that will save Americans' lives, right? The data shows us what to do. We have to follow it.
I hear from people all the time who shout at their TVs when these things happen that do something.
Yeah.
Something must be done. What do you tell people who want to be part of the do something push so that they can be involved in this too?
We need every single voice. We need every single vote. And until people go into the polls and vote on this issue, there aren't consequences for inaction, right? So we need every single person to find a part of this work that they're passionate about through Moms Demand Action or Students Demand Action or any of the groups that are doing this work in this country. And right now, if you're watching us, text the word BOLD to 64433 and we will connect you to your senator, red and blue. Everyone needs to hear from us and know this is a priority.
It is interesting. I was at the NRA convention right after Uvalde, and there are single-issue voters about protecting their Second Amendment rights. We've not seen as much sort of single-issue voters on stopping gun violence, but that does seem to be changing a little bit. I know you talked to Chris Murphy. I know you're watching these negotiations very closely. What's your sense that perhaps this time is different from all the other false starts we've had in Washington?
You know, people keep asking me, are you hopeful? And really what the question is, are we going to require our senators to do what they're elected to do? Do we have the expectation that they will protect us instead of the profits of gun manufacturers? That is my expectation. It should be everyone's. And look, when you look at polling, people support this issue more than any I can think of. Overwhelmingly. Yeah. So, yes, they need to vote on this issue, but they also need to realize that too long we've been a silent majority, and this vocal minority has been writing our gun laws.
Talk to me about what we think we know about these discussions, whether it's, including juvenile records and background checks, incentivizing red flag laws. Republicans also want sort of unspecified school safety measures, more mental health funding. We don't know what that looks like yet. Do you think those are the kinds of things that can make a difference? I know it's obviously not everything you want, but if that's the deal that comes to the floor of the Senate next week, is that the kind of thing that you think could actually help?
I do. I mean, certainly we're dealing with a mental health crisis in this country, but the reason we have a 26 times higher gun homicide rate is that everyone in this country has easy access to guns. And also I want to be clear about mental health is that most people who are mentally ill are actually victims of violent crime, not perpetrators. That said, it can't be either or. It has to be both. For too long, it has been nothing. And so we need action.
Right. I mean, Texas, where I'm from, where this shooting just happened, been dead last in the country in mental health access. It's not an unworthy goal to pursue more mental health funding. It just is adjacent to the problem, potentially not exactly part of it.
Precisely.
Tomorrow we're going to hear from some of the victims of the Uvalde shooting and the Buffalo shooting in this oversight hearing in the House. What can the country learn from those? I feel like we ask sometimes too much of these victims and victims' families to come and talk like this. But what role can they play in advancing this debate, in putting on some of that pressure on lawmakers, and in keeping the country focused on this issue in a meaningful way?
Look, the gun violence survivors who wake up and do this work every day, who tell their stories, who do that to affect change, they are heroic. And I think it's so important that we hear those stories and frankly, what went wrong. So often we're hearing that it's just more guys with guns that are somehow going to solve this. Let's be clear. You know, it was an unarmed mom who went into that school and got her kids out of there, even though there were dozens of police officers. Right. So we really need to talk about what the problem is, and that's easy access to guns. And in particular, it's easy access to guns for people who are under the age of 21. You know, 6 of the 9 deadliest mass shootings since 2019 in this country have been by people 21 and under. People 18 to 22 only make up 4% of the population, but they commit 18% of the gun crimes. So there's some things that are very logical that we can fix and change and save lives. There's not one thing that's going to solve all gun violence in this country, but we we haven't even tried trying.
Right. It's right there if lawmakers want to go after it. Shannon Watts, thank you for your time and for your expertise on this issue. I appreciate you coming in.